Pay attention to Daisy Link, 31 years old, standing in the dark front yard of her Naranja, Florida home in the early morning hours of June 25, 2022. She is barefoot, wearing pajamas, her voice captured by a neighbor's Ring doorbell camera as she speaks to the man bleeding out on the concrete. Her tone detached, almost clinical. Then she turns and walks back into her house. The man on the ground, Pedro Jimenez, 36, has less than an hour left to live. Because the bullet Daisy fired from a 9mm ghost gun has severed his femoral artery, and she will wait 12 full minutes before calling 911. This chilling audio clip would become the prosecution's centerpiece in a case that was anything but simple. A labyrinth of domestic terror, a lost month of surveillance footage, a jailhouse pregnancy orchestrated through air vents, and a shocking judicial reversal that would send a convicted murderer back to square one. This is the story of a 9-year relationship that exploded in a front yard, a forensic puzzle missing its most crucial pieces, and a legal saga where the fight for a stand your ground defense collided with a woman's own words in the dark. Daisy Link and Pedro Jimenez shared a life defined by intense passion and even more intense volatility. Their 9-year relationship, which produced children, was a textbook case of the cycle of domestic violence: tension building, explosive incidents, and temporary reconciliation. By the summer of 2022, the cycle was spinning out of control. Pedro Jimenez was a figure of constant, aggressive presence. He struggled with substance abuse, particularly cocaine, which fueled paranoid jealousy and rage. Daisy Link, by contrast, was trying to break free. She had taken the formal step of removing him from the lease of their home in Naranja, a neighborhood near Homestead. But Jimenez refused to stay away. He cycled back to the house, his arrivals often triggering confrontations. The violence reached a horrifying peak just 5 days before the shooting. On June 20th, 2022, Jimenez allegedly arrived at the home high on narcotics and discovered another man present. In a blind rage, he attacked Daisy with a firearm, using it as a blunt instrument to pistol whip her repeatedly. The beating was so savage that it left her skull visible through the lacerations on her scalp. This was not a hidden secret. The couple's 11-year-old son, Pedro Jimenez Jr., witnessed the attack. He would later testify via closed-circuit video at trial, describing how his father struck his mother with the gun after an initial shot, fired at her, miraculously missed. In the aftermath, Daisy's family mobilized for an extraction. Her mother, Josefina Perez, traveled from Texas to Florida with a singular mission: to get Daisy and the children out. The stage was set for a final, fatal confrontation. The tension that had been building for a week erupted in the pre-dawn hours of Saturday, June 25th. Another argument ignited, fueled by accusations of infidelity and Jimenez's drug use. The confrontation spilled from the house into the front yard. What happened next is where the narratives violently diverge. Daisy Link's claim was self-defense. She stated that during a physical struggle, fearing for her life, she grabbed a firearm, a Polymer 80 ghost gun with no serial number, and fired a single shot. The forensic evidence, however, told a story the prosecution called an execution. The bullet did not strike Jimenez in the chest or face during a struggle. Instead, it entered his left foot, traveled upward through his body, and exited his right thigh, severing his femoral artery, a major blood vessel. The medical examiner, Dr. Benjamin Mathis, testified this trajectory was consistent with Jimenez having his foot elevated, in mid-stride, running away. It was a through-and-through wound from behind. Then came the audio. A neighbor's Ring camera, activated by motion, captured the aftermath. It did not capture the shooting itself, but it captured Daisy's voice. As Jimenez lay bleeding, she was heard saying, "Not like I hit a major artery. You'll be fine." To prosecutors, this was a statement of cold, knowing cruelty, not panic. It showed an awareness of the injury's severity and a stunning lack of urgency. For the next 12 minutes, according to phone records and prosecution timeline analysis, Daisy Link did not call 911. Instead, she allegedly engaged in a frantic cleanup. She hid the ghost gun in the fronds of a palm tree in her yard. She removed Jimenez's wallet and cell phone from his person. Only then did she finally dial for help. And when she did, she initially lied, giving false names to the dispatcher. When Homestead police officers arrived, their body cameras captured a scene of apparent chaos. Daisy was performing CPR on Jimenez, screaming, "What happened?" to the officers. Prosecutors would argue this was a performance, a calculated act to distance herself from the shooter she had been just minutes before. Pedro Jimenez was rushed to the hospital, but succumbed to his injuries. He had bled out from a wound the medical examiner stated required immediate surgical intervention to survive. As detectives took over, a seemingly solid case began to develop cracks, not because of a lack of evidence, but because of the state's catastrophic failure to preserve it. A crucial piece of the puzzle was surveillance footage from a neighbor, Robert Cisneros. His system had captured Jimenez stumbling and falling that night, with an emotionally distraught Daisy approaching him. This clip was entered into evidence. But the defense had a critical request. They wanted the full month of footage leading up to the shooting. This footage, they argued, would show a pattern, documenting Jimenez's constant aggressive harassment, his violent arrivals, his threats. It was vital evidence to support Daisy's stand-your-ground immunity claim, to paint a picture of a woman under siege who reasonably feared for her life. There was just one problem. When the police finally went to retrieve that full month of data from the hard drive in their own custody, they discovered it was gone. Nearly a month of continuous surveillance had been deleted. The defense, led by attorney A. Antonio Tomas, cried foul. They alleged a missing evidence scandal, a spoliation of potentially exculpatory evidence that violated Daisy Link's right to a fair trial. The state claimed it was a technical error, but the damage was done. A judge would later deny the stand-your-ground immunity motion, and the jury would never see what those cameras saw in the weeks before the killing. The foundation of the self-defense case had been digitally erased. While awaiting trial at Miami-Dade's Turner Guilford Knight, TGK, Correctional Center, Daisy Link made national headlines for a reason that seemed impossible. She became pregnant. Initial rumors swirled of a sexual assault by a guard, but the truth, uncovered by internal investigations, was far stranger and exposed jaw-dropping security failures. The father was Joan DePaz, a convicted murderer serving a 25-year sentence in the same maximum security facility. He and Daisy had never physically touched. Their communication and conception were feats of inmate ingenuity exploiting institutional flaws. 1. Communication. They spoke to each other through shared air conditioning vents that connected their isolation cells. 2. The transfer. DePaz would place his semen into plastic wrap, saran wrap. This package was then tied to mattress strings, threads pulled from jail bedding, and lowered or passed through the plumbing or ventilation infrastructure. 3. The insemination. Daisy would retrieve the package. Using plastic applicators from yeast infection treatments provided by the jail medical staff, she would self-inseminate. The scheme worked. In recorded jailhouse phone calls, Daisy was heard saying the pregnancy was a calculated move. "I'm going to sue. I can get out now." The fallout was immediate and severe for Miami-Dade corrections. They were forced to completely reevaluate housing protocols, ensuring male and female ventilation systems no longer interconnected, and restricted access to certain medical items. A life had been created as a legal strategy, highlighting a security breach of almost comical proportions. Daisy Link's trial for second-degree murder began in 2025. It was a battle between context and forensic fact. The defense painted the picture the lost footage would have supported: Daisy as a long-term victim of horrific abuse, living in reasonable fear, who acted in a final, desperate moment to save her life during an attack. They highlighted the pistol whipping from 5 days prior and her son's corroborating testimony. Daisy took the stand, maintaining she only meant to scare Jimenez, not kill him. The prosecution, led by Alex Burguita, focused on the irrefutable physics of the case. Using a mannequin, they demonstrated how Jimenez was shot in the back of the leg while fleeing. They played the ring audio over and over. "Not like I hit a major artery, you'll be fine." They hammered the 12-minute delay, the hidden gun, the lied-to 911 operator. This was not fear, they argued. It was rage. It was an execution followed by a cover-up. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. The forensic timeline and that audio clip were decisive. On October 16, 2025, Daisy Link was found guilty of second-degree murder. Under Florida's strict 10-20 life law for firearm use in certain felonies, she was sentenced to life in prison. But the story was not over. On February 6, 2026, in a stunning turn of events, Judge Lodi Jean granted a defense motion and ordered a completely new trial. The life sentence was vacated. The reason was a critical legal error. During his powerful closing argument, prosecutor Alex Burguita had used a PowerPoint presentation. Included in that slideshow were 4 photographs that had never been formally entered into evidence during the trial. They were exterior shots of Daisy's home, used to attack the credibility of her mother, Josefina Perez, a key defense witness. The state admitted the mistake and offered the defense 1 extra minute for a cure argument. Judge Jean ruled this was insufficient. The use of unadmitted evidence to specifically discredit a key witness and the self-defense claim was a constitutional violation that could not be undone. Daisy Link's conviction was thrown out. The legal slate was wiped clean, sending the case back to the beginning. As of this recounting, Daisy Link awaits her second trial for murder. But she does so with a new charge looming. In January 2026, while at TGK, she allegedly entered another inmate's cell and punched the woman 15 times in the face. She now faces a separate charge of battery by a detainee, a fact a new prosecution may use to challenge her image as a victim. The case remains a haunting legal and moral knot. It forces us to ask, can a long-term victim of brutal violence ever become the aggressor? Does a history of abuse justify a shooting from behind? Can a fair trial happen when a month of critical context is deleted from a police hard drive? The saga of Daisy Link and Pedro Jimenez is a modern American tragedy written in blood, digital code, and legal technicalities. It's a story where the fight for a defense began with mattress strings and air vents, and where a case was won, then lost, because of 4 unauthorized pictures in a PowerPoint slide. The final chapter on what happened in that Naranja front yard has yet to be written, but the echoes of a voice in the dark, "You'll be fine," and the ghost of a month's lost footage will hang over the next courtroom and everyone after.